If you've attended a play, studied theater, worked in the arts, or participated in Fort Wayne's cultural scene over the last several decades, there's a good chance John O'Connell's influence has touched your life, somehow, whether you realized it or not. As Dean of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at Purdue-Fort Wayne University, he's had a hand in shaping Fort Wayne's theatrical and cultural identity, and he joins us today for a reflection on how Fort Wayne's arts community has evolved during his time and career here. John, welcome to the 260.
Thank you, Ed. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you here. You have such a long history here in the community, in this studio, as a matter of fact,
yes,
right?
Yes, in this very corner. Yes, this very studio. Absolutely.
You hosted a show here?
I hosted a show for 2 years, live for first year, and I said, that's enough of the live stuff. And then we did some taping of shows for another year. It was a terrific experience. Arts Weekly is what it was called.
Yeah. When you arrived here in Fort Wayne, you'd been in New York, you'd been in other places. What was the cultural scene like here?
So the cultural scene, I came to chair the Department of Theater, and so my sort of influence immediately was on what was happening in the theater scene in Fort Wayne. And it was considerably smaller, Ed, than it is now. I would say there was mainly 4 main theaters. There was the Arena, there was the Civic, there was the University, and there was First Pres. And then the Youth Theater, of course, which has been around for many years.
Yeah.
But since that time, 4, 5 new theaters have started since then that are sort of semi-professional. So the theater scene has expanded tremendously since I've been here.
What has surprised you most about the evolution of the cultural scene in Fort Wayne?
So, what surprised me the most is how many young people that I've trained have decided to stay around. The influence of young people in today's theater scene, the art scene actually, both the visual arts and the performing arts, the influence of the young people in Fort Wayne has really changed, and I love that. They're staying in Fort Wayne and they're producing great art for residents and Northeast Indiana. It's terrific.
You may have answered my next question, which, sometimes a university can be a little bit insular. But, how has the work that you've been able to do resonated throughout the community? And maybe it's the legacy of those young people who are staying.
I think it is the legacy of the young people that are staying. People think that I should train New York actors all the time. And many times I say, you know what? I just want you to practice your craft wherever you can do that. So the fact that they're staying around and doing it here is terrific. We can be insular. I think we were a little bit when I arrived in 2007, and I immediately started directing in the community. I directed it at the Civic Theater, I directed it at First Pres, and for the Youth Theater, and some of the new faculty joined me in that, and so our outreach really became part of our focus.
Has theatrical training changed or evolved over your time as an educator?
Yes, it has.
How so?
Well, I guess when I started training back in, 19, exactly. It was really technical. We were like, stand up straight, let me hear you, we did a lot of voice and body training. We didn't do as much inner creative training about what the self-divisive work can be. And so our theater department actually has become very focused on the work that's created in the rehearsal hall being more centered on the actor's journey. And I would say that wasn't my training when I was teaching and early teaching in theater.
So you had to pick that up.
I had to. I didn't. I let my colleagues do it. I'm still old school, Ed. I'm still stand up straight and let me understand what you're saying. So, it's the devised work. It's called devised work. Excuse me. Yeah. So the devised work. Jeff Casaza, my colleague, does a majority of that. Yeah. I don't have that knowledge of how to sort of craft that in the rehearsal hall. So that's good for our students, right? Our students should be dealing with directors that come from several different points of view.
Right.
So it's really great that they do devised work with Jeff Casaza, but they do Shakespeare work with me.
So when you're out and you're in the community directing a production, is that an extension of your educational mission?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just part of our outreach. Everyone who knows or works with me knows that my first focus is the College of Visual and Performing Arts, even when I work out.
All right, take me down memory lane. What have been some of the highlights? What are the memorable things that really stand out to you?
Well, you know what? Well, that's very interesting. Two of my highlights have been with the Fort Wayne Youth Theater.
Okay.
So in 2012, when I started as interim dean of the college, we did a collaboration with the youth theater, and we did a huge production of Oliver. There were 25 students from the youth theater and 25 of my students and some community members, some 50 cast members, and we did it downtown at the Performing Arts Center. But we built the scenery in our studio, so our students had the sort of the learning opportunity to build scenery, put it into a truck, take it somewhere and put it up. And that was an incredible experience with 50 students, 25 youth theater. We sold out 7 performances downtown. It was terrific. The other highlight for me would be the Shakespeare that I do at First Pres and at Purdue Fort Wayne.
Is there something you can point to and you say, I'm really most proud of that? What are you most proud of from your career here at PFW?
Well, to be honest, the work as a dean, so I was chair for 5 years and I was dean for 14 years. I think I'm most proud of the fact as I walk out the door of raising money to build an art gallery for my, I have to say, Ed, I have wanted an art gallery for my faculty and my students since the first day of being a dean. We don't have an art gallery. We have a gallery that is the lobby of my visual arts building. It's not really a gallery. And now as I walk out the door, we've raised money. The Dorothy and Paul Schaefer Fine Arts Gallery broke ground 2 weeks ago. I think I am most proud of getting that for my faculty and students before I leave, because they deserve a dedicated, secure art gallery.
I know we have some images that we're showing. It's going to be a spectacular
Yeah, it's going to be
place.
spectacular, yeah.
As you mentioned, walking out the door. As you walk out the door, what you got to be being hit by a lot of emotions as you leave. What strikes you? What do you want to share with the viewers as you leave this post?
I am most grateful for the amount of students I've heard from in the last month, over the many years that I've taught, who have sent me wishes of gratitude, congratulations, comments on how I've impacted their lives. I am most grateful for the impact I have made on students' lives.
Yeah, and you don't even realize that when that's happening.
I don't, not at all,
Yeah.
not at all. I have one student who works in Houston for the baseball team down there, the Astros, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, he sent me, they won the World Series one year. So he sent me a World Series ring, and I have a World Series ring sitting on my desk, and I have it right in front of people when they come in and they say, "What's that?" And I say, "It's a World Series ring."
That's a lot of bling.
That's a lot of fake bling, but it's a lot of bling, yeah. But he sent me a really gracious note with it, you know, and he said that I have impacted his life so much that I deserve a World Series ring. I thought that was so great.
What's next for you?
Next for me is a little bit of travel. I'm going to go to Europe in October. We have a lake home in Columbia City. We'll spend longer. We won't be coming back in August. But also, I gave up my professional directing career when I became dean. I couldn't really leave to do the professional work around the country. So I hope to re-engage with some of those professional theaters and get my professional directing career sort of back on track.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ed.
John O'Connell is retiring as Dean of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at Purdue Fort Wayne. John, we wish you the best.
Thank you, Ed, so much for having me. I appreciate it.